Pulling the Thread podcast,
94.
episode 86. We should have been recording for the last hour.
I'm in the future.
You are in the future.
I'm in 94.
Okay. All right. Tell me everything you know about the pagers.
So back in the 80s, when you wanted to get a phone call or you wanted to talk to somebody, you had this little thing on the side of your belt.
Yep, I had two of them.
It would beep, 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 and you'd give you a little phone number, and then you'd run to a phone, and you'd be like...
I knew where all the pay phones were, yeah.
And you would call, and you'd be like, what's up, honey? As far as what's going on... okay, so it's interesting to me that everybody's like, oh my God, did you hear what they did?
The crazier shit is that they were able to do it with pagers. Like that.
No.
The piece of information I didn't have was that they're using pagers.
Well, so the reason why they switched to pagers is because the phone is
a bigger payload.
It's not necessarily the bigger payload, but they believed that the phone was easily hacked because of all the data that's going through it, where a pager doesn't have data really going through it, right? It's phone numbers and shit like that, but it's not your Amazon wish list that's on there, right?
So did they really send out Shalom?
No, I don't think they sent out Shalom. I don't think that was the code word that they used. But the thing that I find interesting is I guess when you think about the scale, right? When you think about 3,000 or so roughly Hamas guys getting fucking injured with pagers, that's a little bit different than what Israel or Mossad normally does. Like, it's nothing new. That fucking 15 years ago, they were the reality is it goes back even further than that.
30 years ago.
They were killing dudes with rotary phones a long time ago. And then they were killing dudes with cell phones a long time ago.
Remember our EOD friend?
Yes.
He talked about it all the time.
Yeah.
That they were taking, the Israelis were taking the airbags out of vehicles and putting claymores in place. And they'd put the steering wheel back together.
God, that's such overkill.
They would follow their target,
right,
and then they would rear end them to set the claymore off to kill the driver. And then not only that, you remember Israel fucking flew a helicopter and fucking launched a rocket eye to eye with the guy they were trying to assassinate. Such
overkill.
And then the cell phone bombs, like that's been a thing since the beginning of cell phones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so when people are getting all excited about this,
I had actually forgotten all about it until
the surprise was not the surprise for me was not the device, but the amount that they did. Because the truth is, if you think about 3,000 pagers, so Hamas, someone in Hamas, so their intelligence network identified a threat, and the threat was, if I got all my guys,
Mossad.
No, Hamas.
Okay.
Hamas had to have identified a threat. And they said, I got all my guys running around with cell phones. The only way I can circle the wagons is if I call them. I know that the Israelis are using all kinds of technology to monitor all phone calls and all that bullshit. So it identifies all my players. So I have to come up with another means of circling the wagons, right? Fuck phones. Everybody has to leave their phones at home. We're going to buy them all pagers. We'll get them pagers, and then all I have to do is send them the Shalom signal, and we can circle all the Hamas fighters around, which means Mossad was able to intercept the idea that Hamas was looking to buy pagers, right?
Or they snatched somebody up, fucking got interrogated him, or had somebody implanted, embedded.
That's not, okay. It's probably not the way it happened. We tend to fantasize going to the movies that there's all these torture chambers and motherfucking we're pulling fingernails out. The reality is most of the information that we get around the world, we get through financial benefits, right? We pay people for the information that they have. And the thing that most people keep forgetting about is prior to the war, so prior to this whole fiasco, all Hamas leadership was on Israeli payroll. They were paying Hamas to not attack them. So they were paying these guys. These guys were off in fucking Lebanon partying and doing all kinds of crazy shit and buying gliders with the money that Israel was giving them. But we were paying all these guys. So it's not a far-fetched idea to think that there are individuals within highly ranked individuals within Hamas currently that are not still feeding Israel intelligence, that are not still giving Israel intelligence, and Israel is still giving them fucking a check every month. So, because this is a pretty big operation, right? Normally, when you think about how they do it, what they're doing is they're cloning. What they're normally doing is they want to kill John Willis. They clone John Willis's phone, and then they create a situation where I can just change your phone, right? So I take your phone and I turn it in. You know, there's going to be reconnaissance where we figure out what kind of phone you have. Once we figure out what kind of phone you have,
we're gonna Verizon will tell you.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they want to make sure. Right.
Yeah. All they gotta do is hack my Verizon account.
They're gonna figure out what phone you have and all that. Then they're gonna make an identical phone.
Or listen to me piss and moan about how fucked up these Apple phones are.
Apple is the way. Apple is the empire.
It's so fucking. I'm right-handed.
Everything
I
else
hold the
is a
phone
rebellion.
right-handed. Why is the volume not? Why do I have to go down here? If I want to close this motherfucker out, why don't I have a close button right here? Why do I have to do 4 things to do what Samsung does once?
Because your phone is never supposed.
I literally have to. I have to have.
How else can
I have to have this dude carry my phone around to make it work?
How else can Apple ensure that you get all the services that you require if it's not on all the time? Stop it.
It is absolutely. Even when I turn my phone off, that motherfucker, I see it come on.
Apple is all they're trying to do is make your world better. Anyway, so you would have to have so they're going to do that and then send you a phone call and blow your head off, right? That's a pretty specific.
Not me. I don't answer the phone.
That's a pretty specific. But what they're going to do is figure out what your habits are, and as soon as they start seeing shit going in your Amazon cart, boom.
Oh, right? They're going to mail me a bomb from Amazon.
Maybe. So it's pretty specific.
I'll bet that catches on fire. It came from Amazon.
It's a pretty specific
actually,
operation.
You're probably
right?
poisoned. It's just taking time. You had that on earlier.
It's a pretty specific operation to do that with a cell phone. Whereas when we're talking about pagers, all I have to do is have the pagers, and then I have to have somebody within Hamas that is going to accept order, and issue those pagers out. It's when you think about it, it's actually brilliant because let's say, just for an example, I know who you are. I know John Willis is a high-level ranking individual within Hamas. I probably know about 6 guys below you.
You know, you just started an actual federal investigation.
Maybe. I probably know about 6 guys below you, or we'll just say Brando, because everybody would believe that he's in Hamas. But I probably know.
Because guys with as many tattoos as him are always in Hamas.
I know 6 guys below you. Outside of that, all the rank and file, you know, the actual fucking infantry guys, we don't know who they are. Because there's just no reason to know that level, right? But if I now create a device that will create an injury that is very specific.
So how long do you think
I can figure out who all your fucking dudes are.
Somebody else said that. Yeah, that's what they were really doing is seeing who went to the hospital.
Yeah, I can now figure out who all your dudes are.
So Hamas is claiming that it injured over 1,000, went to the hospital, killed 4. 4 were immediately killed or shortly afterwards.
That guy must have went beep 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 beep, and he's like, I can't see this. Or he was sleeping in his bed and his bed caught on fire.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? So I heard a lot of social media people saying this is an act of war, like Israel just declared war. I'm pretty sure we're already beyond that point.
Guys, they've already been attacking Hamas with real weapons. This isn't even a real. This is espionage. This is Cold War shit. They've already been firing Hamas. When you think about Hamas and Israel, they have already been fighting conventionally for a month now. So
the crazy shit is
this isn't an act of war.
The crazy shit is they had footage inside of buildings of these pagers going off and blowing up multiple people. Like I saw a lot of different camera angles from different locations. Where'd that footage come from?
Well, okay, if you're
Hamas just gave up the footage? Like, this is what they're doing to us?
Maybe there was surveillance on specific targets, right? Where specific people might be.
How far, like, where this happened from the border of Israel, right? When we cross across that imaginary line, or maybe there's an actual wall there. How far did they have to infiltrate in for this to fucking? Well, you think they disseminated them on their own to their
Yeah,
people.
they didn't. Basically,
But I mean, if they put up
The way-
surveillance cameras and shit,
well, the Israelis are. You're looking at a part of the world that is very small. Okay, it's actually really small. It's like California. It would be like half of California and part of Nevada having a fight. It's a small world, and they have been. The reality is, Mossad, Israel in general, has been using surveillance and counter surveillance all over that part of the world. So to assume that, for example, in Lebanon, you're in the hospital, and you walk through the hospital. To assume that the Israelis do not have full access to the entire network in that hospital when it comes to cameras and surveillance, of course they do. Of fucking course they do. Even with Hamas going, I want to make sure that the Israelis can't do this. The Hamas doesn't have the technology to keep the Israelis out. And so, yeah, I guarantee it was a high level. There was a high level individual within Hamas who was like, you know, be bitching. If I could contact all my guys, but I didn't have to worry about Israel DFing their phones, we'll get pagers. Maybe that'll work. And so they got pagers. Well, I guarantee you, it was a fucking Mossad guy who was like, here's your pagers. Here they are.
So what was their next move? What was their action after the pagers?
My guess is
I thought they started using radios.
oh, after the pagers blew up. Yes. So this morning, the Israelis are already blowing up radios.
Imagine that.
Yeah. They're already blowing up radios.
Are they Baofeng?
They're probably Baofeng. So
Baofeng.
if you're buying radios from an undisclosed overseas source, you might want to take the backs off and make sure there's no silly putty or Play-Doh in the motherfucker.
It's fucking wild.
Because in theory, if you think about it, like especially with the pagers, you create a code, right? You just create a random code. So you could literally walk around for a year.
You could almost do that with an 8801 IC chip from fucking
But I'm saying
Radio Shack.
You could walk around for a year getting pages
Right, until it hits that 4-digit.
until somebody in Tel Aviv is like boop 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 boop, and then now you got to get a hip replacement or a fire extinguisher, one of the two. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see once the smoke clears how extensive it was.
Because you hear like they're in the deep tunnel systems, right? I heard they've been pumping fucking a bagillion fucking gallons of water into these tunnel systems to flood them out and render them, useless. But when you hear tunnel systems, in the tunnel system, unless they're direct routing wire all through these things with a fucking antenna and running Wi-Fi down there, you're not going to get cell coverage. There's no cell signal. I mean, you just walk in my building.
Different. Here's the thing. Different world. You live in a different world. So out here we live in a suburban environment, and so there are places where cell phone coverage is close. There, everything is right on top of each other. I guarantee you, even in the tunnels, they're like, dude, what's up, brother?
But somebody had to fucking run wire for that to happen. It's not going to punch hundreds of feet of
Well,
earth.
they're not really hundreds of feet of earth. I mean, these tunnels. I know they show a lot of tunnels where it's like you think it's like a man tunnel, but the majority of the tunnels are fucking subway stations. They're not fucking like they're taking semi trucks through these motherfuckers.
Have you seen all the other countries around the world where they say that civilization went underground, and they have these whole cities where they were house 600,000 people underground, and it's all just like seemingly like sandstone is what it looks like. Very rudimentary. There's no living quarters. Everything's just carved out of sandstone, but it's pretty wild, That's kind of how I pictured it.
It's I would say picture it more like New York City subway tunnels, because what most people don't understand is Israel closed Palestine off. So Palestine was a walled city, and if you wanted concrete, or you wanted wood, or you wanted some screws from Lowe's, you really got it through the tunnels. You didn't get it from Israel. You got it through the tunnels because Israel restricted the type of equipment and the type of things that the Palestinians could get. And so that was really why the tunnels were built. When Israel says, "Oh, it's just terrorist," it was just for terrorist activity. That's a lie. It really was for commerce. They dug these fucking tunnels for commerce. Now, did Hamas
Take advantage
and did they exploit the tunnels and bring in fucking weapons? Of course. Of course. If you wanted silk, 100 years ago, if you wanted silk from the Silk Road, you would get silk. But you could also get an AK-47 and motherfucking hand grenades, right? That's just the way when you force an economy to work on the black market, right? When you force an economy to exist on the black market, you're going to get black market shit. That's just the way it happens, right? If you cannot have an economy that is in the daylight, then you're always going to have black market shit, and that is what happens. So did the tunnels get used for terrorist activities? Of course. But again, they had tunnels that they could take a fucking semi-truck through. You don't see Hamas running around with tanks, right? If this was North Vietnam and they had a tunnel that big, it would be tanks that would be running through there, not fucking, truckloads of lumber and all that other bullshit. So the reality is it was a means of commerce that Hamas exploited in a manner to get weapons in. That's how.
You familiar with the second Trump assassination attempt?
Yes. And did you see that?
Which is actually the fourth.
Did you see fucking Garland doesn't want to charge him with assassination?
Yeah. So did you see Florida said we're charging him? I think Florida has custody of him.
We're going to do an independent investigation.
Yeah. Did you see that the second?
That is again though, the issue there is that's a federal crime. And for the Department of Justice, like Merrick Garland, the reality is if anybody in this country should be jailed, it should be him because he has used.
You don't think it's beyond jail?
No, I don't think it's beyond jail. Because he has used the Department of Justice as a political tool and weapon, and he is still using it as a political tool and weapon. And he should be first off, he should be fired, and then he should be put in jail for his treasonous acts. But for a state to step in, and attempt to prosecute something that is a federal crime, that is showing that the federal government is useless, is no lour part of a solution.
Look at Texas. Look at the border. I
know.
We have thousands,
that's what I'm saying.
Hundreds of examples.
If you cannot do your job at the federal level impartially and within the laws that have already been established, they should just get rid of you. Like the reality is, if the state of Florida is going to be the one to prosecute this criminal for attempting to kill a former president of the United States, then we don't need a Department of Justice.
We don't need a Department of Justice.
Fire them. We do if they do their jobs, but they don't do their jobs.
Right, but what is their job?
Their job is to enforce federal crimes.
What's the job of the FBI?
To enforce federal crimes. Right.
As they did 60 years ago.
Well, yeah. What I'm saying is, if they do their job in a manner that is not political, if they do their job in the way they're supposed to do their job, then truthfully, we wouldn't even be talking about the FBI.
Where did Merrick Garland come from?
Oh, he's an appointed position. He's nothing special.
So he wasn't a special agent.
I'm sure he's come up through the ranks. Think about it. That's the thing they hate about Trump. Trump is not part of the machine. All those people, when you think about the director of the CIA, they're all part of the machine. They've all done their bones down in the basement. They're all part of the machine, and that's why those entities have become such a problem.
So the first kid that they killed. You're not allowed to say that. Social media has changed all the verbiage, right? You're supposed to say unalived. That's what YouTube wants you to say.
Well, YouTube is dumb.
Okay, so the first shooter was in a BlackRock commercial.
Yes. Did you know that?
Are you aware that the second shooter was in a BlackRock commercial?
If in fact, you think about it, I can see. Okay, so that first kid in the BlackRock commercial, that is 100% suspicious, right? It's just suspect. Now, because of what this second guy was doing and how BlackRock interviewed him, I could kind of see, like if we flipped it and we made the second shooter the first shooter, because of his involvement in Ukraine and because of how he was operating in the world at the time, I could see that as being a total just coincidence, right? I could see it as a total coincidence. But now you got two. And for some reason they've been on BlackRock's payroll.
Do you know there was
Crazy.
2 others before this one? This is actually the 4th attempt. They thwarted 2 other attempts apparently. Yeah. But you don't know those names, so nobody's been able to pull those threads and flesh those out. Were they also BlackRock associated people?
I don't know.
No, we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So are you aware that they have wire transfers that link the second shooter sending money to the first shooter?
No, I didn't know that.
Yes. There's all kinds of crazy shit. You saw the interview video where he was supposed to be in Ukraine interviewing when he's already 63 or whatever.
He's 58.
They didn't hire him at that point.
They keep talking about for some reason the news keeps calling him older than he really is. He's 58.
Did you see the Twitter page that was immediately taken down that everybody, so when you start seeing crazy shit now, all of these social media guys grab full screen grabs, right? And then those pages were immediately taken down. But on this dude's page, he has 200 friends basically. And they start fleshing out who these 200 people are and who their associations are. And they're like, this person is known to be a CIA handler. This person is involved with these other 4 shooters. Like everybody on there was.
Well, I would have again to try and subsidize or whatever, quash the conspiracy theories. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine that if me decided tomorrow that I was going to be a recruiter for the Ukrainian army, if I just was like, you know what, I'm going to recruit people for the Ukrainian army, I guarantee, even if no shenanigans, all above board, I'm just walking around with a fucking pamphlet going, hey guys, you want to join the Ukrainian army and help free the Ukrainians? I guarantee that I would have friends in my fucking queue that belong to every 3-letter agency, and I guarantee you I would have motherfuckers that belong to the CIA that would be like, hey bro, have you gone here and done, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You're just because of what he was doing. Now, when people say they don't think he was doing it, I've actually seen the interviews from the what do they call them? It's the free. Is it the Free Foreign Legion, or it's the Foreign Force guys, where there's dudes that are actually talking about him in country and what a weirdo he was in country, right? That they didn't accept him because of how old he was, but he had some other issues too. And if you listen to any of the interviews about any of his stuff, everybody always says the same thing. He was a bit of a weirdo, right? He's a bit of a weirdo. Well, that's the left. The left they're all a bunch of fucking weirdos anyways. It doesn't take, that's the thing about sorry Democrats, but that's the thing about the Democrat mind. It is very easily moldable, and it's very easy to get a Democrat to believe bullshit. It's easy. It's easy for them. It doesn't take anything.
Did you see Hillary Clinton say yesterday?
Yeah.
People should be held accountable, jailed, have a fiscal fine assigned against them.
When are we going to hold her accountable?
Correct.
When are we going to hold her accountable?
And then the reporter asked Clown Pierre, fucking the mop head chick, don't you think this is your rhetoric that's causing these, assassinations? And, we can't, that she literally walked off the stage when that all happened. So the first reportings were AK-47, then it became SKS.
SKS, yeah.
He had an SKS. He was there 12 hours from pinging his cell phone. They knew geofencing him that he had been there 12 hours waiting. It was a known spot where reporters would hide to take pictures of Trump. And as the Secret Service would come forward, the reporters would let it be known, hey, we're here, we're just reporters, we're taking pictures, But somebody saw a barrel supposedly sticking through some chain link. Secret Service or security there fired 4 rounds, did not get him. He left.
I wonder if they hit the body armor.
Well, so the ceramic plates in the backpack.
Yeah, I wonder if they hit that at all.
So they keep saying ceramic tiles as though it came from like a flooring place. It was not, like, apparently it was not body armor.
Mythbusters, bro.
Did it work?
Yeah, Mythbusters. You can buy ceramic tile that'll fucking stop.
It did. Okay. So citizens saw him, captured the license plate, reported it to local law enforcement. Local law enforcement fucking hot stopped him, SWAT team, the whole deal. I heard 50 miles away, then I heard 35 miles away. And they took him into custody, and they have him, apparently.
Yeah.
So that's the deal.
What about your boy? He went into court yesterday.
P. Diddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, weird. You know, they didn't charge him for any of the child shit or any of that stuff. None of those charges were there. That paperwork's out there. Guys are sifting through it like crazy. There's a ton of shit on there, but none of it's like child shit, any of that stuff. None of that's charged. They charged him like RICO, racketeering, and all this other shit. They did not charge him on any of the fucking kid stuff.
Either one of two.
You know
things.
where he's being held?
Where?
Exactly where Epstein was being held is what it said.
Either one of two things. Either they are super afraid of him, or they do like they always do. They got to come up with the creepiest crime to make everybody not like the person.
Yes,
and then
like planting the child
court,
porn when there's no child porn.
And then bring him into court and being like, okay, we're going to charge you with all this silly shit.
But why did they let him walk around so long? This has been going on, what, over a year? When they raided his place, brought his kids out at gunpoint and shit, who were both adults.
I mean, when you think about, for example, Jeffrey Epstein, right? Epstein was not a known quantity. Like was he known in certain circles? He was known in certain circles, but he really wasn't a known quantity. Like, not a real known quantity. P. Diddy is a known quantity. Like, people know P. Diddy, and I would assume that especially in the heavy entertainment business area that he worked in, if you want to talk about a motherfucker who's got some dirt, like, he's got to have, like, I mean, he used to do butt naked parties where at fucking midnight, all the girls would drop their dresses and you get to see who had dicks and who didn't.
Yeah, apparently
right?
A lot of them girls had dicks.
Yeah, well, that was the point. The point was to...
Don't you kind of know? Like, when we see a chick, you're like, that chick's got a dick. Like, you know.
Maybe. I don't know. I've never been around... Well, no, you know what? I will say this. No, they're just in Thailand.
I'm not even talking Thailand. Like,
No, I know. We're talking here. But what I'm saying is in Thailand, when you walk down that street... So in Thailand, there are, as some of you may or may not know, there are clubs where it's ladyboys. They call them ladyboys, and they're a national treasure in Thailand. And if you have an incident with a ladyboy where you think you're going to get physical because you didn't know it was a dude, they will fuck you up. Not the ladyboys, the cops will fuck you up because they're considered a national treasure. And so, you know, when the military comes into town, those places are everywhere. But when the military comes into town, they put dudes outside outside the club,
yeah,
because the girls are out there doing like the girls do in every bar. They're out there, you know, wiggling their asses. And so if someone stops there, like if you stop there and you got your fucking high and tight and shit, and you're like, God damn, girl, what's up? You know,
you don't want to come in here.
They make sure that you know. Like, they make sure that you know. And I am sure to an extent that there is a armed forces agreement where they're like, hey, make sure these motherfuckers don't go in there. Just make sure that if you see a fucking sailor or a Marine, make sure. Now, sailors and Marines are going to get wherever they want to go anyways, whether that's through the window or what, they're going to get where they want to go. But I am sure that there's a handshake or a nod where they go, hey, you need to make sure that your assets are protected and our assets are protected, because the last thing the fucking Marine Corps or the Navy wants is some 18-year-old hanging a ladyboy out the window because he didn't know.
What's that have to do with Hollywood?
Oh, well, what I'm saying is, when you think about P. Diddy, he knows the dirt that's everywhere, right? When you have a party like that, when you openly have parties like that, that means there's another level of shenanigans that we don't even know about. And so when you think about the money that is involved in Hollywood and those people, I'm sure I'm sure there was a level of. I'm sure that there were some serious phone calls made when they were talking about arresting P. Diddy, and they were like, "Hey, motherfuckers, you better make sure my name don't get dragged in this shit." Right? I'm sure of it. So, anyways, there just has to be my feeling is that, that P. Diddy is a celebrity at a level that would garnish more protection than fucking Jeffrey Epstein. Because he's got to have as much dirt as Epstein had.
So there's some pictures out. Somebody took pictures of Sean Combs sitting on the grass in a park in New York yesterday, 2 hours. They were put up on social media 2 hours before they fucking took him into custody. He was just out chilling. Like, I don't think that motherfucker even knew it was coming.
Maybe.
But I mean, even
a lot of those times.
Do you remember when our raid went down?
Yeah.
We got a phone call 2 weeks before that.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Uh-huh.
We went through all the shit. Like, there's nothing here that can get us in trouble.
Yeah. Confidential informant number 1 actually came to Camp Pendleton.
Yeah. Like, we knew before they executed the search warrant.
Well, what I'm saying is, again, that's the other thing that we're not really, we're not really privy to is, again, PW.
Well, the question, like, he got on an airplane, right, and left the country, supposedly. You don't think they landed that aircraft and said, okay, here's what we want?
No, I think, again, we're operating at a different level. We are operating at SWAT team levels. He's operating at a different level. I am sure that maybe when it came out that they were arresting everybody, that it spooked him, and he got on a fucking plane and he fucking moved to a location where he thought he couldn't be extradited. And then I guarantee you, PW's fucking lawyers went to the FBI and went, "Hey, what the fuck? What the hell? Okay, my client will be available to be arrested on this date," right? Because a lot of times, depending on the crime, you can turn yourself in, where you can be like, "Okay, I'll be at the courthouse on this date, and you can arrest me," right? I believe that's the level PW was, or P. Diddy was, and he probably told his lawyer and said, "Hey, for the last day out of freedom, because I don't know where this is gonna go, I'm gonna be sitting in the park, fucking eating a burrito, instead of going to the, you know what I'm saying?"
Yeah.
So it just, because we don't know the details of it, I am sure that the day he was put in handcuffs, he knew the day, time, hour, because that they work. When you work those agreements out, it's, hey, at 10:15 I'm going to be here and I'm going to fucking turn myself in, right? And so after that 10:15, that's when they shoot the Red Star clusters up and fucking send marshals out and all that other crazy shit.
So they're gonna off him?
It depends, right?
Where's Ghislaine Maxwell?
Oh, she's chilling in some federal penitentiary. Probably, I bet she's playing tennis right now.
I think she's really in custody.
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know.
You don't think she's with Epstein?
No, Epstein's dead.
Epstein's brother said Epstein ain't dead.
Epstein's dead. They had to kill him. They already. Here's the thing. You get one swing. Epstein got the one swing. When they arrested him the first time, and the people that were worried about what he knew came to the table for him and got him that fucking sweetheart fucking deal.
House arrest.
The sweetheart deal. When that was his swing. That was his get out of jail free card. He used it. You don't get with that world, you don't get another one. You don't get another card. That motherfucker's dead. Because he didn't, basically, I guarantee you, this is what happened. They're like, "Bro, one time. We're going to fix this one time. Get your shit straight. We don't want to see you motherfucking in here again." And he just kept doing the same shit. He's like, "I'm untouchable." The worst thing you can do in that club, in that multi-million-dollar club or billion-dollar club.
Bring attention to it.
It's not only bring attention to it, but start thinking you're untouchable. Because in that world, the reality is nobody's untouchable. They'll fucking assassinate presidents. You're not untouchable. So what he should have done is went to fucking Fantasy Island and just kept hosting fucking P. Diddy events, right? That's what he should have done, and kept his mouth shut. But he didn't. He kept being who he was, And he's dead. There's no fucking doubt in my mind that they had to kill him, because I want you to think about this. Let's just pretend that let's pretend me and you were in this fucking cabal of 10 who run the world. And we asset out Jeffrey Epstein to collect information, because information is the most powerful weapon you can have on people in the know, right?
You don't even have to. All you got to do is have a bunch of parties where they show up and
they're going to do it
alcohol
anyways.
and
they're going to do it anyways. But again, what we want to do is we want to leverage them into compromising positions that we can use against them later. And this motherfucker's out there just calling attention to everything. Now, he gets arrested for shit that he should have went to jail for. We do the thing because we're in this fucking cabal. We're like, hey, we got to fix this because this is our boy. This is the information he gets. He gets out. He does it again and gets arrested. Now, you could say that the guys in the cabal are like, all right, Jeffrey is he's one of us. He's one of ours. So what we're going to do is we're going to fake like he died. We're going to create this whole thing where we kind of fake kill him, and then we're going to let him live on an island in seclusion. Fuck, why would you do that? You're taking the chance that asshole's going to show up in fucking Los Angeles somewhere, or fucking Venezuela. You know, he's going to show up somewhere. You wouldn't do that. You fucking kill his ass. That's what you do. What you do is you pay off a couple of guards to fall asleep when you know they shouldn't be sleeping. You make sure that the fucking security camera's out, and then you have Bruno, that's going to have a really comfortable life in prison, choke that motherfucker out. Problem solved. Because you know what the fucking cabal has right now? Another Jeffrey Epstein. There's another motherfucker out there that's doing the exact same shit he was doing.
All right, pause. So
whatever you want to talk about.
Do you believe that you are a racist?
Do I believe I'm a racist?
It's a trip because all the people,
I believe I'm racist. I believe that
all that racist bullshit, them bitches are all racist.
Yeah.
Like D'Angelo, like she's, like they're straight fucking racist.
I believe that, everybody,
he got her to pull $30 out of her wallet.
Everybody should be motherfucking judged by their individual character, not by anything else. Because it doesn't matter what color you are, you can be an asshole.
So Lewis, our boy Lewis, he went to see the movie, and he said that they actually fucking turned the heater on in the theater while they were there.
Yeah, that's
same
just
thing happened with the trafficking movie. They made it super uncomfortable.
That's just some woke bullshit.
Yeah, it's just some asshole employee.
Mm-hmm. It's just some woke bullshit that what they don't understand is, this is what they don't understand is, well, maybe they do. Maybe they do understand, is what all they're doing is create hate and discontent against their movement.
What was his other one? The other movie he did, Am I a Girl? Or
What a Woman?
What is a Woman?
What is a Woman? Yeah.
Did you see him asking all them, like in Africa and shit, the tribesmen and shit? They just started laughing. The crazy shit is, like the chick even said, "Who are you? What do you do?" We have to be really careful. Like they knew it was happening. Like they knew.
Do you notice it?
Are you? I'm going to sell you these drugs, but are you a police officer? You have to tell me if you're a police officer.
The interesting thing is how much he had to pay to do all those interviews. So it's not about about education. It's not about education. It's not about awareness. It's a financial scam. That's all it is. Is you have these people who went to school and got a fucking major in something that's not real, that's total bullshit, and they are financially bilking a movement that, I mean, the reality is it's a movement that 10 years ago probably was important, but they are.
To who?
Meaning, when you think about the LGBT community or
the
whatever,
the white fragility bullshit.
Well,
she stole that from an Asian person. She plagiarized half her fucking book.
We got that as an instrument of when you think about it, it's like big government. When you get to a certain point, like if let's say we talk about the war on poverty just for a second. We'll go totally out of context of what we're talking about. But let's say the war on poverty. And let's just pretend that tomorrow we win the war on poverty. meaning everybody is living, let's just say tomorrow, everybody is living at a wage that we feel is comfortable for everybody in the United States.
Mm-hmm. You know what happens?
Nothing. They continue to have a war on poverty because now you have not millions, but you have thousands of government bureaucrats who will be out of a fucking job.
Well,
so they have to create nonsense. It's no different than it's no different than like the fucking NAACP or the white poverty. What is it called? The
Southern Poverty Law
Southern
Center.
Poverty Law Center. They have to make up extremist groups. They have to label groups as extremists in order to continue to get donations. It's ridiculous. Like I mean, I have a big problem with anybody. I have a big problem. My pet peeve is Nazis. Is when people are like, oh, they're Nazis. No, they're not. I mean, the reality is there's no such fucking thing. There is no such thing as Nazis. We killed them in World War II. The Nazi, when you say Nazi, it's a political affiliation. It's a party. We destroyed the Nazi party. It doesn't exist. When you have dudes walking down the street with swastikas on their fucking chests and walking with fucking swastika whatever and wearing German fucking uniforms, they're not Nazis. They're assholes. That's all they are. They're just motherfucking assholes, and they should be treated as assholes. The problem with the label Nazi is there's two types of people out. There's two types of people out there. There are people who are 100% not Nazis, and you call that person a Nazi, and they're going to fucking be upset at the fact that you called them a Nazi. Or there are motherfuckers out there who have swastikas on their chests that are running around pretending to be a Nazi, and then you call them a Nazi. You're not hurting that motherfucker's feelings. You're validating his existence by associating him with something that he can never be. They can't, it doesn't matter. You can never be a motherfucking Nazi because they don't exist. They died, that party and that ideology died with fucking Adolf Hitler. You're just a motherfucking asshole, and you should be treated as such.
You don't think they could be resurrected?
No, I don't think they can be resurrected, John. I don't think they can be resurrected. And if such, they should be treated just as such, as a motherfucking asshole. I mean, when you think about it, the reality is when you think about Adolf Hitler and his rise to power, right? Mein Kampf is not a really readable book. It's bullshit.
Have you read it?
If they had treated Adolf Hitler the way they should have treated him, as a fucking asshole, none of that shit would have happened. It's when you validate those organizations that you create more of it.
Do you think they call everybody they don't like or disagree with Nazis just because that's the pinnacle? Because people have this stigma. They have this idea. Everybody knows it.
Yeah, it's the for the woke community. For the woke community, that's the N word that they throw out. That's it. That is the word that they throw out in order to degrade individuals.
It's interesting
that they don't agree with.
Antifa wears a costume that looks the closest to Nazis of any of them.
Well, they are social fascists, and they are Nazis.
Close to.
Even when you, as close to as you could be. They're assholes. The reality is they're motherfucking assholes, and they should be treated like assholes.
Remember when they said Antifa doesn't exist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can't use the rhetoric. You can't use the rhetoric of the Nazi party and then be like, you're the Nazi. Again, everybody should be judged on their individual merits.
If you look at the rise to power and what the Nazis actually did, I mean, the government in right now is this close to the Nazis as anything we've had in power.
Oh, again, Nazism as a fucking organization doesn't exist. But when you think about, like, if Adolf Hitler,
how would he do it? What did he do?
But if Adolf Hitler was alive, him and Joe Biden would be high-fiving. Like, he would be heart emojiing the Democratic Party. He'd be like, hearts, 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 bro. I see you got your eugenics program going. I see you got your national surveillance state going. Hearts, hearts, hearts. Adolf would love the Democratic Party. Right? And I guarantee he'd be like, guys, you got to push a little harder with that gun control. Adolf Hitler would love the Democratic Party.
So what's up with the gun control? Have you heard any of that?
Nah. The issue is...
They keep saying AR-15's rare and unusual. They're trying to class them
Yeah,
in.
but here's the thing about that.
Have you heard the statistics on the AR-15s?
I don't... well, again, it's the most popular firearm in the United States.
Right. They said that 75% of firearms manufactured in the last 5 years were AR-15. It's something crazy like that. The number was insane. And they said, let me give it to you a different way. If you took every Ford and every Toyota and every Chrysler, that's the percentage of vehicle.
Yeah, they'd be AR-15s. The problem, so you have to understand that a lot of times when a Democrat operative, meaning anybody who's in the Democratic political machine, they are no substance. The Democratic Party has no substance. They have to parakeet to their constituents. So that's why the Democratic Party never talks about how they're going to fix the economy, but they talk about abortion and guns, because the Democrats themselves are that feeble-minded that they believe that those are the only issues, and those aren't the issues that really fucking matter. And if a Democrat, so this stupid, if your current vice president is parakeeting things about the AR-15, because she has said that, right? She's parakeeting. Sorry. The goddamn Supreme Court already declared that they're not rare and unusual. They've already made them the most, in context, the most common. So what that...
This is something about Michigan or something.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing is the court systems have been working over the last 6 years, but they've already it's already been written. So yes, can a state today be like AR-15s are illegal? They can draconically do very fascist stuff like that, but it will make it to the courts, and it will make it into the courts, and the Supreme Court will be like, that's an illegal law. You can't do that. And it's going to get shit canned. It's like the magazine ban that was in California. It's like the AR-15
How
ban.
long until the White House stops doing...
Oh, they can't. They can't ever stop, because that, again, Democrats have no substance, meaning the Democrats cannot run a country. So the only way they can garnish donations and they can keep getting elected to these positions is if they placate to the base. And by placating to the base, they're going to keep telling them things. It's this. Democrat politicians tell you what you want to hear. Whatever you want to hear. That's not truth. That's just, I'm telling you what you want to hear. You're perfect. You're special. You need to elect me. Because I know that you're perfect and you're special. I didn't tell you anything about how I'm going to run the country. I just keep telling you bullshit. And Democrats are that feeble-minded that they believe the bullshit that comes out of their mouth. They just had ABC just did an interview with fucking Kamala Harris where the guy's like, tell me 2 things that you're going to do to fix the economy. And she went on a 15-minute babble bullshit where she talked about lawns and growing up in a good neighborhood and her mom buying a house. She never once said anything about the economy. Why? Because Democrats can't fix anything. They never fix anything. As a matter of fact, you're in danger when Democrats are running everything.
So you saw the first debate with her and Trump.
Yeah.
Right? And the earring thing, and
Yeah.
she's being fed, right? So whistleblower comes out, affidavit, the whole deal's out there. She had the questions prior to the debate.
Yeah.
Right? So the whistleblower has 2 weeks to come out and with some other information, whatever. They're going to fucking put the full redacted thing out. You know, he died this weekend in a tragic car accident.
Yeah. That's kind of a SOP for whistleblowers is car accidents. I wonder if he was driving a car that
Made by Boeing.
made by Boeing or sorry, Elon, Tesla. I wonder if he was driving a car that could be
It took
anonymously,
over, yeah.
anonymously driven.
Just like the Chinese chick that was tied in with BlackRock, and her car put itself in gear and drove into a pond and she drowned.
Yeah.
That was wasn't that Schumer's sister? Chuck Schumer's sister.
Chuck Schumer's.
I think it was Chuck
relative to
Schumer. I think it was his sister. Weird, because she's a member of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party.
Well,
That's very fucking odd.
the reality is, if you're a Democrat if you're a Democrat, you've got the armband.
See China talking about how they've admitted they have police stations in the United States.
Yeah, there's one in New York City.
There's supposed to be like a couple hundred of them in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, again, I fall under the fact that how useless. Like the reality is how, like what does a Chinese police station in the United States even look like? What is a Chinese police station outside of an agency that is specifically spying on the area that they're in, right? So if you have a Chinese police station, that's just the classic communist. We're going to open an embassy in your neighborhood so we can spread goodwill. It's just a listening station. That's all it is. And I think these police stations, that's all they are. They're just collecting information. They don't have arresting powers. They can't do shit.
I think it probably has some pressure and influence too, right? If you join the church that's the cult, they send a member to your house. Hey, you come into church on Sunday. Hey, we didn't get your tithing. Hey,
that could
hey,
be it
we
too.
need to come in and have a prayer meeting with you. Hey, we need to do Bible study at your house. And they show up with the 15 more members of the cult.
I mean, that could be it too, in the sense of when you think about like China, or I'm sorry, you think about a city like New York City. There's a large Chinese population in New York City, and if let's say you're a Chinese individual that lived in China, and you've made enough money to get out of China, right? And you've had that foot on your neck this whole time.
But they still have fucking some of your family members.
No, but I'm just saying that you've had that foot on your neck this whole time, and then you flee China and end up in New York City, and you get to New York City, and you're like, oh my God, I fucking made it. I'm gonna eat a fucking donut. I'm having a good time. I live in New York City, and a representative from the Chinese government shows up at your house unimpeded by American law enforcement. I mean, if you really didn't know how didn't know how things worked in the United States, I could see how they could use that to put pressure on Chinese individuals in the United States.
If they did call the New York Police Department. What the fuck are they going to... I mean, are they even going to show up? Maybe they have a deal with them.
I mean, I don't know. There has to be...
It's like the TV show V, right? Yeah. When they had the alien cops, you know?
There has to be some sort of agreement to allow...
And now we're letting illegals be cops too. I mean, who fucking knows?
You're asking for a war.
Have you had any kitten on a stick?
I've had no kitten on a stick. I've had monkey on a stick.
Kitten on a stick. Kitten on a stick.
Did you see the Did you see the fucking video? Did you see the video?
One?
The video of the homeowners videotaping the
bunch
dudes
of them
roasting a dog,
and they go as far back as 2 years. This has been going on. They're pulling up video footage off social media. It's been going on over 24 months.
Yeah, well,
and when they scream racist,
I wonder if it has
most of it's black dudes going, this motherfucker over here straight out of Africa eating these cats. And then he's like, oh, there's a cat right there. You better run. They're kicking your friends.
I wonder if there's a correlation. I wonder if there's a correlation between, I don't know. Let's just say that 24 months ago, there was a crazy influx of individuals who could illegally cross the border.
Yeah.
Is there a correlation between that crazy influx and motherfucking eating people's cats?
Let's say Springfield, Ohio. Okay. Springfield, Ohio, I believe, has a population of 65,000 is what it was.
Oh, here's something.
They put 25,000 illegals into Springfield.
Here's another thing that you need to, when people are talking about Springfield, Ohio, I want you to think about this, because I just saw this the other day when they were talking about murder per capita. None of the Democrat-controlled cities are reporting crimes.
Correct. I saw that.
They're not reporting crimes.
Yep. Trump said that too.
You know why they're not reporting crimes?
Because they're fucking through the roof.
Because they don't want people to know the truth. That's fucking ridiculous. Yeah. And you know who's not doing anything about it? Department of Justice.
And it's violent crimes, rapes. It's fucking crazy.
If in fact the Department of Justice was doing its job, it'd be investigating all.
Not only are the Democrat parties not reporting crime, none of the fucking European countries where they've brought in all these people are reporting crimes either. And there's so much not reporting crimes that when they do actually book them in, They're not cataloging them in a manner where they can identify who they are. The dude from Germany or the dude from Poland said Germany is only using a first name and a first initial of the last name. So there's no way to.
I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
It's to collapse those systems. What do you got at WASP?
No. I was looking at Daylight.
Yeah, there's a little crack there.
It doesn't make any sense from. So, for example, like as a law enforcement, let's say you're a law enforcement officer in Germany. It really doesn't make any sense to go along with that system.
Well, the law enforcement officer has a check, and his family is probably somewhat protected.
I get it.
We were just doing our jobs.
It
didn't make any sense.
No.
It didn't make any sense for the law enforcement to go down with those COVID lockdowns and shut down all those fucking people either.
That's a common misnomer when people saying we were just doing our jobs.
No, they knew.
It
just didn't affect them yet.
It's not that. It's again when you are there is a certain level of evil that you have to cross over. Right, so when you think about Germany, if you think about the German soldiers in that time period and things that they were doing, you didn't have to go. Like if you were in the SS and they were like, "Hey, you're going to go to Buchenwald or you're going to go to Auschwitz," you didn't have to go. Did not have to go, and as a matter of fact, not only did you not have to go, but you would be punished in no way if you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna opt out of the death camp. I'm going to opt out. You can just send me into the regular army. I'm going to go fight Russians." You did not have to go. And again, you were not punished for not going to the camps. You had to have a certain level of evil to make that transition. So when any of them said we were just doing our jobs, no, they weren't. No, they weren't.
I don't say that as a justification.
I know it's not a justification, but
where again, were you more apt to come home from? The front lines or the camp?
It depends on what time. It depends on
what
year
but they didn't think they were getting fucking liberated.
No,
they didn't see that coming.
Nobody that went to the camps even went to the camps with the rationalization is if I go to the camps, I'm going to survive the war. If I don't go to the camps, I'm not going to. They didn't.
And they said that
because they had a high. They actually had the Germans actually had a high turnover of individuals that were going to the camp that were fucking mentally breaking down.
Yeah. And that's why they were using Jews to do it.
Well, yeah.
When they got off the train,
it's easier.
They had a bus that went around that would hose. I think they could put 120 some people on the bus, and they were using carbon monoxide to kill those people on the bus. They were using Jews to put them on the bus. Come on, we're just moving you. And when they would get off and do it in mass number, when they were doing the gas chambers, they used Jewish people to do that.
Well, that's one of the things that a lot of people don't know too. Is when you think of the death camps, almost all of them were outside of Germany proper, and they would use German personnel for the infrastructure and the running of the camps, but all the guards were usually locals. So all the guards would have been from
same way they cataloged them all, whatever, right? They would go in. They didn't just roll into.
But I'm not trying to make it
correct.
They were. If you were there, you were fucking evil.
They didn't just roll into those towns and take the towns over. They rolled in there and put the local mayor in charge, right? That's who, and he immediately fucking took away the people that he disagreed with, right? They immediately disappeared, and then it just went from there.
Yeah, we, as a species, we kind of tend to not understand when we automatically assume, a lot of people automatically assume that when they are called upon, when the situation happens that they are called upon, that they are going to rise up and be the superhero. And the reality is no. The majority of individuals are going to put the mask on or slide the armband on and inform on their significant others. They just did a recent study. So in East Germany, the East Germans had the Stasi police. And the Stasi was on an evil level. Like they were, the reality is most of those fucking Stasi guys were former Nazis anyways. So they had a whole new level. Now, when the wall came down, when the wall came down, everybody had the ability to look at those records, right? They had the ability to see who said what about them. They basically said, hey, here's the records on who was informing on who. And when they looked at the averages, when they looked at the people who were informing, neighbors were gladly informing. They weren't pulling fucking toenails out. Neighbors were gladly informing on their neighbors. And so much so that the information flow was so great that when you came in, like if you came into the the Stasi headquarters you wanted to see your file, you had to go through a crisis counselor. Like the crisis counselor's like, are you sure you want to see your file? Are you sure you want to see? Because think about it. It wasn't just
right.
It wasn't just neighbors. It was like, imagine your parents were informing on you, or your brother was informing, or your sister. And the example that I saw was this lady had spent time in jail. She was arrested and was in jail. She had a roommate. And her roommate and her were fucking peezos. Like bros. Down to the end bros. When she left her apartment to go to the Stasi building and see who was the one that was informing on her, the one that got her put in jail, her pizzo was like, have a good day. And her fucking pizzo was the one that had been giving Stasi all the information. Is that, do you want it's kind of like...
What was the outcome of that?
Oh, I'm sure it fucking wrecked that woman. Like, I'm sure it wrecked her. It's kind of like, imagine you have the greatest parent in the world. You just have the greatest parent in the world. And that parent takes care of you and does everything that gives you the right schools and takes care of you and loves you. And then when you're 18, you find out that's not your real parent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for some people, that's going to fucking crush them. And a lot of people want to find out who their real parent is and why that parent didn't love them. Instead of saying... Compartmentalize that shit. Instead of saying, this is actually
who are
my
you
real
today?
parent. Right?
That's who you are.
This is my real parent right here, because this is the one who fucking took care of me. And so that's that crazy world is, do you really want to know? And so when people are like, I think Jordan Peterson talks about this a little bit. When people they take a look at Germany, for example, and they go, I would never have done that. I would never. Yeah, you would. You would. You would have. You'd have been in uniform, or you'd have been in the factory, or yes, you would. You're the same. Every single person that spent more than a month in a mask. Yeah. You would. Not only would you but you would have been informing on your neighbors.
Did you hear Peterson's breakdown on the on Holodomor and also the Archipelago, the book Archipelago? He did a whole breakdown on that. It's fucking pretty wild.
Yeah. So it's that thing that people assume that they're going to rise to the occasion, but it's very rare that. Example is, that's why we do give out a Medal of Honor. I mean, it's why we give out medals. If you think about it, when I train a Marine, or I train a soldier, or I train them all to the same level. I give them all the same tools.
But they don't all rise to the same level.
They don't all rise to the same occasion. And so when someone does rise to that occasion, you reward them with a trinket. I mean, it is just a trinket, guys. You reward them with a trinket. But that's why the military does it, because even the military knows that it's rare that individuals rise to the occasion of a level of self-sacrifice. Now let's just take a civilian populace. Mm-hmm. Let's just take a civilian populace and be like, are you going to rise to the level of No, you're not. You're going to fucking step, lock, stop, and barrel.
They talk about when the Nazis rolled into villages and, rounded people up to take them to the camps. And every now and then you would have somebody that would fight back. You'd have a couple of boys or somebody with a rifle that killed a couple of the Nazis. They would immediately roll up all of those people, lock them in a church and burn them to death, or, wipe out the entirety of the village. There's many instances of that. And those spread, right? So you still had that hope, those people who... we're going to fight. And then you would have the other people like, no, we can still make it out of this. Maybe we're not, they didn't They knew they were going to the camps, but they weren't told that there was a camp. We're just relocating you, right? Same thing during Holodomor. You were supposed to give away all of your food that you grew. You were not allowed to keep any of it. And when they came through and they found a cache of food, they would immediately kill everybody in that village. So if somebody caught wind of you doing this and saving extra food for your family or your children,
you turn them in.
Yeah, they were eating each other's children.
You don't from a strictly pragmatic idea. You really only have to be barbaric a couple of times. Like, you need to be barbaric. You need to be super barbaric once so people know about it. You need to be super barbaric a second time so people believe it. And then it's self-fixing. You don't have to do you know, when people are just talking about burning villages and villages and villages and all that, they didn't have to do that. Because they would roll into town. They would literally roll into. So you would have the regular forces, regular German army or and it, and I could use the same perspective as far as the Russian army goes. The regular forces would roll through town. They would take care of all the regular units, all the regular fighting men or whatever. And then those forces, that armored brigade or whatever it is, infantry battalion, they would get moved out. They would continue the fight. Then the Gestapo would come in. And then they would start looking at records. And then they would start talking to people. And when they came into town, that's when the mayor would go, Brandl's got 4 cases of MREs in his fucking basement.
Look at all those
tattoos. And then they would show up at Brandl's house. And again, we tend to over dramatize. We tend to over dramatize the torture aspect of everything, or the evil aspect of things, because
there was a lot of torture once the Gestapo rolled in.
But
because who did they have? They had children and women.
But that's what we recognize as evil, right? But I don't have to. Here's the thing: if I already know the information, remember your mom asking you, "Did you eat the cookies?"
Right, we already knew. I told my kids that all the time.
I already know.
If I'm asking you, I already know.
Here's the video of you eating the cookies, motherfucker. And so that's the same thing in this situation. When the Gestapo goes to Brandl's house, they don't throw him on the ground and fucking start stabbing him in the kneecaps and like, where are the fucking MREs? They approach the situation like real interrogators. I already know where the MREs are. The reality is, I don't want to know where your MREs are.
We want you to tell us where 2 other people's MREs are.
You tell me where you got the motherfucking MREs. Tell me, right? They want the whole chain of custody.
You might still be able to get out of this.
Which you won't. And by the way, you're not. They're going to kill you anyways because you took valuable commodities from...
When they come for you, you better just fight.
Yeah, you took valuable commodities. They're not going to...
People hold on to that so much, I guess, hope, right? They have that hope. They can't let that hope go. So rather than go out fighting, they're willing to perpetuate this and keep this chain going.
From a purely historical and a human endeavor, I guess. I'm using the wrong word, guys. But we tend to glorify, and rightfully so a lot of times, but we glorify survivors, right? Because this is right up. This is the same thing we were talking about just a minute ago about if you think you're going to rise to the occasion, you're not going to do it. We tend to glorify survivors.
Why?
Because it gives you hope. Right?
When the truth is, most of those survivors were just dumb luck.
Well, no, it's like this. It's like this. We want to create a feeling of hope in people that makes for good cinema, right? If I made you a movie and they've tried, but if I made you a movie about the 100,000 individuals who just merely got off the train, walked down the path and into the gas chamber and died, you'd be like, that's fucking hopeless, right? The reality, that's goddamn hopeless. What kind of fucking crazy ass movie are you trying to make here? But especially when you talk about world conflicts or not even world conflicts. I mean, you could talk about the shit in Rwanda or fucking, where's the place where they hacked up 10,000 Catholics? Anyways, you could talk about all these, you can talk about these things, but millions of people died. Millions of people had to die for that one person to make it out of the fucking whatever they call it, right? So it's a very interesting thing that in reality, you know, the reality of it is, I mean, I want you to be hopeful, but it's hopeless. You're not going to make it.
So what's the answer then? Fight?
You have to fight.
Yeah, when they come for you, you got to fight.
You have to fight. You have to. It's not. Here's the thing. That's the wrong answer, John.
Don't let them come. Don't get on the radar. What's the answer?
That's the wrong answer. The wrong answer is, you know what the right answer is? And this is where I say this is where people are going to have a hard time rising to the occasion. Okay? The right answer is, you need to fight when they come for the other people. You need to fight when they come for the people that you don't agree with. I mean, here's the reality, and we've touched on this before. If Donald Trump wins the election, if Donald Trump won the election, and he decided he was going to round up all his adversaries and send them to death camps, that we're just done. We're done fucking dealing with this woke bullshit. We're going to fucking put them on train cars and send them to a fucking factory somewhere. I would be in the woods. I would create a rebellion against that fucking tyrannical government. I don't care that it's people you don't agree with, but you're operating at a level that's outside of humanity. And once you as a government or a person or an entity move outside of the level of humanity, I am now your enemy. It doesn't matter. It could be if Joe Biden decided he was going to round up all the Republicans, I would be in the woods.
Do you think there's soldiers? Do you think there's soldiers operating outside of humanity right now?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Where?
Yeah. In Ukraine.
Do you think the United States soldiers have ever operated outside of humanity?
We have. But
is it necessary?
No, the difference is this. Usually, one of the good things about America is usually if there is that level of, if even at a large scale level of operating outside of humanity, we are pretty quick to correct. Usually we overcorrect on whatever it is that is going on. So like when you think of like, the My Lai massacre in Vietnam, goddamn, we've been in Vietnam for fucking 15 years. Like outside of humanity, if the United States was operating outside of humanity in Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, it would have been a 1-year war, right? When you operate at a level where you're fighting people that you consider non-human, then it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter how much napalm dropped. And I know we dropped more tonnage of bombs in fucking Vietnam than anywhere else in all of World War II. Still different. We were operating within the confines of warfare. We could have, instead of, for example, it's pretty well known. Fucking Westmoreland wanted to introduce nuclear weapons into Vietnam. He wanted to end the Vietnam War with nuclear weapons. The powers that be deemed that as you operating outside of the realm of humanity.
How close do you think they were to that happening?
I don't know. I don't know how close. Yeah, but I mean, when you think
they're
about
throwing nuclear weapons around every fucking day right now.
You think of Westmoreland. He had some pretty decent power at the time. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if there was a certain period of time where strategic nuclear weapons were sitting in Okinawa. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. But Westmoreland wanted to introduce nuclear weapons. Fucking MacArthur wanted to go all the way into China.
What if he had?
Who? MacArthur?
No, Westmoreland. What if he had launched a couple nukes?
I think the implication of at that time period, when you think about Vietnam, when you think about the Vietnam time period, if we used nuclear weapons to end the war in Vietnam, we would have had the same problem we had in Korea. The Chinese would immediately retaliated.
So China. I wanted to bring this up earlier. Somebody was asking the other night what our biggest threat was, and I'm like, I think he said, do you think that we're imminently going to war and life as we know it's over with? I said, maybe. I'm 52, though. Every year something's supposed to wipe us out. If you really think that's the case, would you be better off if you had more money? You buy you more options, right? You could dig in deeper, whatever it is your thing is, right? I said, but who have you seen? Who are our adversaries? Let's say Russia. Russia doesn't look like they're doing super great right now in Ukraine. China. When's the last time you saw China fight a war? Where is China in combat at right now? Or in the last fucking 20 years, where's China been in combat?
The last time the Chinese fought a war was in the Himalayas against the fucking against India.
When was that?
And they got their motherfucking asses kicked. It's just
and
been
India
recently.
and India.
They got their
India
asses
of all
kicked.
places.
They got their asses kicked. The Chinese are not in a. Here's the when you think about
China, their economy's collapsing. They're fucking. They've got the world's largest navy. Most of it's made of wood.
When you here's the issue. We created the United States of America. I'm going to say this: the United States of America created these two boogeymen.
Mm-hmm.
They created the Chinese and they created the Russians.
Mostly so they could steal money.
Well, they created the Chinese and they created the Russians, right? They created these boogeymen that we had to be afraid of. And every year, the Department of Defense would come out and go, "Oh God, the fucking Chinese are like when they say the Chinese has got the biggest fucking navy in the world. They're goddamn fishing boats, guys. That's it. They're fishing boats. They have 2 aircraft carriers.
Kind of.
We have 11. Like, we have 11. And it would only take one U.S. fully operational carrier group to wipe out the entire fucking Japanese Navy, or sorry, Japan. I know you're going to be there fighting with us. The entire Chinese Navy. That's it. One carrier group. We got fucking 11. The Chinese don't have shit. The Chinese could team up with 10 other countries. Like, they could reform the alliance. Even if Japan, China, Germany, Italy, who was the Axis powers? I think that's it for the Axis powers. I'm sorry if I'm missing some of you terrorist countries. North Korea teamed up and we all met in the Pacific. They still wouldn't have enough shit. They'd still be, and Japan's got all our stuff. Right? They still wouldn't have enough shit. Japan doesn't even have an aircraft carrier. All they got is fucking helicopter jump ships. Now, they've got F-35 Raptors on.
So why are people so worried about this?
Because the Department of Defense is telling us to be worried.
That's right. It's because who owns the media?
Yeah, the Department of Defense is the ones telling.
And if you turn that cell phone off, if you stopped looking at that device, you'd be a whole lot more happier. Yeah, you'd get a lot more shit done. You'd look better in the mirror. You'd be more successful. You'd probably smile more. I saw today, Josh, our friend Josh, sent me a link, and he said that 18-year-old children right now, 18-year-old kids, 18-year-old young adults, are on track right now to spend 90% of their life, 89% was actually the number, 89% of their free time on a screen. Some kind of device.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. I mean, maybe maybe an EMP is what this country really needs.
Well, what you're going to see is that it's going to become illegal to not have your device with you, because that's what they want, right? That social credit score, the currency. They don't want you to have paper money, right? They want a universal credit, universal currency. You're going to have your phone. That's going to be your papers, right?
Yeah, but
everybody has it. They can track you. They can bomb you by it. They can monitor you by it. Geofencing. How'd they know where that shooter was? Because they geofenced that motherfucker. They knew everybody that was there when those shots went off.
That's the idea of. The reality is that's the idea of people who want fiefdoms.
Sure.
It's not. The issue is even because, again, you've said it before. We've talked about this before. If you went over to the pond right now and dropped your phone in there, okay, the only world interaction that would happen would not be your phone, and everybody or everything in your phone missing you. It would be you missing the phone. Like, it would be you going, fuck, what's in my Amazon cart? I really want to see what the next piece of you know what I'm saying? We have conditioned ourselves that we have to have this thing with us.
Absolutely.
Right? We've conditioned ourselves so they don't.
When I crushed my phone, right? I was being an asshole zipping around on the razor, and it fell off the hood of the Razor, and on the next lap I ran over it and crushed it, right? So when I went to Amazon, I'm like, I need a new phone, and they laughed at me, and they're like, you got to order it. It took about a week and a half for that phone to get here. And I was literally figuring out how to go outside with the iPad, but I didn't have any service outside. I didn't have Wi-Fi outside, so I'm carrying a jetpack. I'm carrying a remote router, and I'm having that on there, and I've got this sitting in the basket of the four-wheeler, and I've got it Bluetooth to my earphones. And finally I was just like, fuck it, this thing just, it's too much hassle. So I went, a week and a half without a phone. When the phone came, I didn't even activate the phone for 2 days. I was almost, that's when I had stopped worrying about it. And I had the phone. Amanda's like, are you going to turn your phone on? I went 2 days without turning that thing on. And even when I did, I was used to, after about 10 days, I would just leave it inside.
That's the thing.
But as soon as you're back in there, man, it's got its hooks back in.
Oh yeah, that's the thing about, when you say they're going to force you to do this and they're force you to do that, they don't have to.
No, you'll do it on your own because you can't live your life without it.
If tomorrow the federal government came out and said, in order for you to ever buy anything in the United States again, we're going to put a chip in your arm, and then you can buy whatever you want wherever you want. But you have to have this chip in your arm. You have to.
Your phone's making that. Speakers go crazy.
If you were to do that tomorrow, there would be, the same people that are wearing their masks still would be all lined up to get their chip. But there would a rebellion would soon form, and hate, like motherfuckers would be burning down chip stations, and hate would form. But if you slowly work it into the economy to the extent where it becomes such a convenience. All you have to do is make something super convenient, right? If you make it super convenient.
Yeah, the government doesn't even have to do it. How many stores right now don't take cash?
Well, I don't know any stores that don't take cash.
There's stores that don't take cash.
Not only do I not know any stores that don't take cash. If you know a store that doesn't take cash, tell me. I'm going to go there and fight with the manager, because it's not me.
It is. Move your phone.
It's not me.
What the fuck's doing that?
I don't know. Cord?
I don't know. Okay. So
they're
supposed to, every business is supposed to take any form of U.S. legal tender.
They have to take legal
Have
tender.
You seen all the videos of guys going in to pay their fines and their fees and stuff with pennies and change?
Yeah.
And literally like getting arrested over it. They're like, you have to take this. And they're like the local level governments are like, we're not taking this.
Yeah, but that's just Karens. That's just Karens that are now, Karens used to be on the other side of the window. Mm-hmm. Karens are now on the receiving side of the window. Sure, they're on both sides, yeah. The Karens are now on the receiving side of the window. Here's the thing.
So if I have a fine,
just because
if I have to pay the court $1,000 and I show up with $1,000 in pennies, and they won't take my $1,000 in pennies, even though I was there to pay, they're going to send somebody to arrest me for not paying my fine. The judge is not going to care.
No, I 100% believe that if you got arrested and had to go in front of the court, in front of the judge, and you said, Your Honor, I showed up at the duly placed time, and I showed up with legal U.S. tender to pay said fine, they would not accept said fine. I guarantee you they're going to fucking dismiss it.
I don't think so.
I guarantee they're going to dismiss it.
Nowadays, you are more apt to.
They can't. They have to accept that money. It's legal tender. It's legal tender within the United States. They can streamline their systems all they want, where they're like, hey, you can pay by. Speaking of that, I got to pay a fucking ticket. You can pay by.
What'd you get a ticket for?
A cell phone.
You were on the cell phone?
No, here's the crazy thing. I was in California. This is when I was in California. We were in John's. John's got a Nissan Frontier manual. He's got a Nissan Frontier manual. So again, I wasn't on my phone, but we're stopped at a stoplight, and his daughter Elizabeth. I don't know if I should use her name. His daughter. We're trying to coordinate an event, and so she is on her phone, talking to her dad, like, "Hey, what are we doing here? Blah 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 blah." Well, they threw out a bunch of dates. Like, they threw dates out at me. And so I'm like, I'm trying to think. And my cell phone was sitting in the cup holder. Like, so my cell phone was sitting in the cup holder. I'm like, am I available for those dates? Am I available for those dates? And I literally took
And you're stopped at a light.
I'm stopped at a light. I literally took the phone out of the cup holder. I wasn't looking at the screen. I wasn't doing anything. I just fucking took it out of the cup holder and I tapped my head. I went doop, 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 and put it back in the cup holder. And as soon as I did that, whoop, whoop, motorcycle cop right behind me. How do I, because again, everybody has an excuse about their cell. But again, and I'm not saying I don't use my cell phone, guys. I'm from the goddamn 90s. I'll eat a cheeseburger, change my clothes, and use my cell phone while driving with my toe. I've done that. I use my cell phone constantly when I'm driving. Can I say that legally? But in this particular incident, I was at no point in time was I even thinking about using my cell. I was just like tapping my head because they were throwing all these dates at me. So again, the reality was I a distracted driver at the time. Yes, but I was also at a red light. So I don't know. Anyways,
pretty fucking. I think you could beat that one.
I am not flying back to California to beat that.
I got it. I'm surprised they let you go.
That's how that.
I'm surprised they didn't pull out his thing and make you pay it.
No,
right
crazy thing is, it's John's. It's 19.
Anyways, it doesn't matter.
But yeah, it's an old Nissan Frontier, guys. It's old. Pulls me over and he's like, "You have your registration?" I'm like, shit, because you're in somebody else's car. You know how that goes. I'm like, oh, and then Elizabeth starts searching for registration and the insurance. He's like, your tags are expired. I'm like, shit. Because again, I'm driving somebody else's car, right? So I'm like, oh, god damn it. And he's like, let me see your insurance. You got your insurance? Again, I'm in somebody else's car. Elizabeth hands me an insurance card. I'm like, hand it to him. He looks at it. He's like, nope, this is expired. I'm like, he's like, nope, this is, how you pile those motherfuckers in the car. And so I'm like, god damn it. I'm like, Elizabeth, call your dad. She's like, I know there's insurance on this truck. And he's like,
he can run the tags and know.
Well, yeah, he goes, I'm going to go back into the vehicle. So he goes back to the vehicle.
Chances are he had all that shit already before he pulled you over.
Of course. So John, we get a hold of John.
This is to fluster you and get you to give more information.
I'm like, John, where's this goddamn insurance? It's like, I'm going to send you a picture right now. And so he gets to the door, and he goes, I see that the truck is registered. You need to get the tag on the car. And I'm like, it's not my car. I'm not from here.
Did you tell him that?
Well, he knew he had my driver's license, right? And so he's like, I'm giving you a cell phone ticket. And I'm like, crazy thing is I really wasn't using my cell phone. He's like, I'm giving you a cell phone ticket and failure to have registration. Or not failure to registration, failure to have insurance card, right? I'm like, shit. And as soon as that happens, Elizabeth's like, he sent me a picture of it. And she's like, is that good enough? And he goes, let me see it. Hand him the phone. He looks at it, he goes, I'm writing you a citation for using your cell phone in the car.
Did you tell him you weren't?
Yeah, I did. But I mean, everybody says they're not using it. What are you going to do? And I don't care. It's not that big of a deal. But it's just one of those coinky dinks where it's like, well,
society has changed. It's not innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, anymore. It's guilty.
You're guilty until you can prove you're innocent.
When we say society has changed, I'm sure it's always been that way.
Depends who it may be.
Yeah, I'm sure it's always been that way. It's just, there's exponentially there's more people now, and because exponentially there's more people, you hear about these incidents more because the law of probability goes up with the amount of people within the United States. So when you think there's a certain correlation to something, maybe it's just exponentially that we're able to receive so much more information, right?
Maybe.
All
right, we got to get off of here and go do Patreon.
I mean, we don't have to do Patreon. If you don't, you got a tone in your voice like you don't want to do Patreon. Are you? What's wrong?
We're going to get off of here and we're going to go do Patreon.
Are you sure? You're all right?
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock already.
Is it 1 o'clock already?
Yep.
Man, we were on a roll. You're going to cut me off now? I'm going to be all sleepy.
Yeah, we're like 2 hours into this right now.
All right. Well, I guess we'll have to wait.
All right, guys. So Patreon, make sure you join SOE Tactical Gear's Patreon page. We build those videos. They're very much like these, but they're built off the questions that the members ask. So we're going to jump over there, and then we're going to do a live feed where we're going to give some gear away.
And if you're still listening and you're currently in the military, go to your Case MREs and get out menu item number 13, cheese tortellini, and just send it to me. All right, I want some cheese tortellini.
Do you really?
Yeah.
All right, I'll get you some.
No, I want our YouTube guys to send them to us. I want 1,000.
Do not send them here. Send them to him.
Send 10,000 cheese tortellinis to SOE.
Do not send them here.
In care of me, okay?
Nope,
Because if you
do not send them here.
If you don't say in care of me, then Cody will hide them all under his bed and shit. I'll never see him.
We'll see you guys next week.
I built this thing from the bottom, they tore it down, I rebuilt